This is Outnumbered. I'm Andrea Tanteros, and here with us today, Sandra Smith, host of Kennedy on Fox Business' Kennedy, co-host of Fox and Friends First, Ainsley Earhart, and today's Labor Day hashtag One Lucky Guy, the CEO of Concerned Veterans of America, Mr. Pete Hegseth. And you're outnumbered, Pete.
Thank you for having me.
On my least favorite day of the year because it means summer's over and I can't wear white.
I know.
That's why you're wearing white, fittingly. I mean,
Yes.
Parting with summer is such sweet sorrow, but does mean football season. So
Yes,
it's
it
like,
does.
that's
Go Bruins!
big. You got to look upside.
Who's your team?
Oh, I'm a Vikes fan, Minnesota Vikings, and we got a sweet quarterback. This is our year.
Go Bears. We'll see.
Easy.
Them's fighting words.
We'll see on the field.
All right, speaking of fighting, well, we do hope you're having a great Labor Day. I don't mean to poo-poo it, but let's get right to it. We're just a little over a week away from the second Republican, I should say, presidential primary debate, and it will be held in September 16th at the Reagan Library in California, where all eyes will be on the 17 candidates. New debate rules will rank the top 10 based on recent polling between August 7th and September 10th. Donald Trump, Ben Carson, Marco Rubio, and Carly Fiorina all got good reviews the first time around. So, what can we expect in the next round, and who are the dark horses to watch? Let's go to our one lucky guy first. You've run for office before. You're a student of politics. What do you think?
It's going to be really interesting. I mean, it's already breaking down recently into sort of outsiders and insiders, anti-establishment, establishment. You know, we don't know how it's going to break out exactly who will be where on the stage, but near the middle will be a lot of anti-establishment outsider candidates. You got to look at what the dynamics between Trump and Carson and Fiorina and Ted Cruz, who's really, I think, positioned himself as the anti-politician in this race, partnering with some of those folks. And then you've got to look at Rand Paul and a Scott Walker,
Carly
George
Fiorina,
Bush.
hello.
Oh, I said Carly Fiorina.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah, Carly Fiorina will
she
be
stand to be one of the big winners from this
I think
change?
The fact that she'll be on the main stage means there really is one debate, right? I know there will be two groupings, and CNN's going to do it that way.
Jim Gilmore.
No, he's the only one who's not participating because he did not get the 1% necessary.
I know, that's rough.
Wait, so Lindsey Graham's above 0.08%?
He's now above zero.
You go get him.
No, Linz is going to be on. He's going to be at the kids' table, as it were. That's what it is officially called at CNN.
Hey, but Carly Fiorina did really well at the kids' table last time. So
Can I just talk about something here? Because this is obviously, and you touched on this a little bit, this is an outsider's race. This is not an establishment election, and it's very obvious. Even though Bernie Sanders has been in office for a long time, he feels very anti-establishment on the left. And here, you know, of course, it's been about Donald Trump, but before the last debate, we talked about Ben Carson, the quiet storm. He is the Sade of this entire election, who has been gathering percentage points and voters and excitement from early voting states and beyond. But my question is, a lot of these anti-establishment people have said, yeah, I'm not from Washington. My question is for this debate, now what? Anyone? Go ahead. I don't have an answer to my own question.
I think that is the big question, right?
It really
but
is.
I just wonder what is going to be the hot topic at that moment in time. Obviously, news is going to delegate a lot of that.
Obviously, I thought Megyn Kelly and Brett, and they did a great job with the initial debate, and with Jack, I think it's Jake Tapper and Hugh Hewitt. So I think you'll get thoughtful questions. I mean, Hugh Hewitt's a thoughtful guy. He's going to bring
endorsed anyone yet?
He's not endorsed anybody, but a great conservative. So I think you'll get great topical lines of questioning. I think they'll dig into strengths and weaknesses.
Well, I hope that the economy is number one.
Well, it'll be there.
Well,
it'll be there. But how can it not be a lot of other things?
How much this is even going to affect the race? I mean, last time around we saw Carly Fiorina, I should say, that really helped her. It propelled her into, I think, a new stratosphere and got everyone's eyes on her. Pete, what are you thinking as far as how much this can help these candidates? Because Ben Carson, I would argue, he wasn't the best at the last debate, but he's been able to garner support in the last couple of weeks, even despite that.
And when you rise in the polls, your expectations are raised. So he's not going to be able to sit back and be the guy sort of making a comment here or there. From Trump to him to Fiorina to Cruz and Marco Rubio, who had a great debate performance in the Fox debate. The expectation will be that he sees a bump as well. So there's folks, but then I was mentioning before, a Jeb Bush, a Scott Walker, they need to have strong performances in this debate.
They've both fallen.
They've fallen back.
They've both
they need
taken
to show
a hit,
something.
and I think part of that, at least, I do think for Bush, Walker, and Rand Paul was their debate performance. And I think that first stage was so critical because it's the first time, not only are people seeing these candidates on stage, but they're also seeing them jockey sympathy with one another.
Yeah,
so, you know, and by gum, if any of those three have a bad debate performance this time, that's good night, Sally, as far as I'm concerned.
And you have
I
to
hate
be
to
able
sound
to
like
be
Dan
strong.
Rather, but I really do.
You have to be able to be strong and confident, but graceful. And there's a tap dance there, because some people criticize Rand Paul for being too defensive.
Yeah.
But yet Trump can say things and get away with it. So what's the secret there? Is it just personalities? Either you like them or you don't?
I think you got to play to type, and if you're going to overreach and try to hit at the front runners, you can hit too hard and look off base, and people could say, well, that's not really you. You're playing politics. It's a delicate game. I mean, especially as the ante is up each month as we get closer to those early primaries. I mean, campaigns are going to get desperate. They're going to say, you got to do this. You got to make your moment. And sometimes moments work, and sometimes they
And you have to know when to speak up and when not to, because we had Chris Christie on last week who said there were, 12 questions or 20 questions or something before he got a word in edgewise. But you have to be able to...
Not on our show, of course.
To speak.
Well, we followed a lot of the candidates during the last debate. I mean, we almost filed a missing persons report for Ted Cruz.
Yeah.
And I do think that's frustrating for them. But I see this time around as Donald Trump's going to take a lot more incoming from these other candidates, because we've seen them in recent weeks start to crescendo the attacks against him and start to emulate his style.
That's
so
right.
I mean, look, Jeb Bush has to do well at this debate. He has underperformed.
I think Scott Walker,
He's
too.
dropped in the polls. Yeah. Scott Walker, that's a great point. Rubio did well in the last debate. He's got to continue with that. And Trump needs to not perhaps blow himself up.
Well, how about Andrea? Last time he said he wasn't going to prepare. Is he going to prepare for this debate?
I think he's
I
preparing.
can't pretend to get in his brain.
I think he's preparing by studying the specifics of his proposals. I really do. And I think now he will be ready. And, you know, you pointed out in the past, Andrea, that these debates are not the time and place for deep specifics. But if you have a thing here or there that makes you sound more thoughtful, I think that's what Trump's going to do.
Like Carson, the last answer for Carson, where we talked about performing brain surgery.
Yeah.
That was like a winner for him.
Yep.
On this Labor Day, Andrea's wearing white. Should she really be? Just
Yes, she can.
Tomorrow, no.
Yes, the rule is you can't wear white after Labor Day.
Okay, just checking. I think I've got white shoes on. All right, well, the candidates are focusing on the early nominating contest. You've already heard a lot already about Iowa and New Hampshire. Expect to hear a lot more as we get closer to February 1st, the likely date the Iowa caucuses will take place. And the New Hampshire primary is planned for February 9th. On February 20th, the Nevada Democratic caucuses. Kennedy and South Carolina GOP primary get underway, followed by the Nevada GOP caucuses. And then the South Carolina Democratic primary, also before the end of February. Jeb Bush's super PAC has been buying ads in the early primary states already, while Hillary Clinton is boasting dozens of organizers in several battleground states. Meantime, Texas Senator Ted Cruz, just to mention him, is focusing on 8 southern states that vote on March 1st. The so-called SEC primary. So just how important are these early states? I'll hand it over to the academic over here.
Oh, the academic. I will take that promotion.
Thank you. I will take that
Professor
lead. I appreciate that.
Wait, is it Princeton and Yale?
Oh.
No, not Yale, Harvard. Get it right. I'm just
Smackdown.
No, I think that it's obviously they're still very important, especially for front runners. Iowa, South Carolina, Nevada. I mean, you've got to, if you're a Bush or a Walker or at this point a Trump or a Carson, I think you have to show that those poll numbers are real and that they're broad. But this really does give an opportunity to conservative candidates to stick around longer and say, hey, I might not have the viability of the name ID in these early states, but when it comes to Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, Texas, Virginia, I mean, that's Cruz country, Carson country, Huckabee country. I mean, there's a lot of other people who may not be number 1, 2, or 3 in those early states that'll hang on and really fight for those.
Yeah, but if you are 1, 2, or 3 and you are a Cruz or a Carson and you do well, you do land on the podium in one of those states, and then you sweep up in the SEC primary, I think that you've got yourself
because
pretty
they're
good
not that far apart.
You know what? We've talked a lot about Cruz and Trump being very close and close friends. Here's my theory. I think that Trump is covering South Carolina, Nevada, New Hampshire, and Iowa, and he's saying, you want to be my running mate? Then you got to go cover these 8 SEC states. That way, we've got them both covered.
You think a deal has been made?
I don't know.
Okay,
it's going to be interesting.
Trump is the art of the deal.
Conspiracy theorizing, you also have to realize that Ben Carson and Donald Trump have been so effusive toward one another. I mean, these two have been falling all over themselves to give each other verbal massages.
Well, and Carly
That'd be an
Fiorina,
interesting ticket.
who did she thank when she was likely to be included in the CNN debate?
Your mom, Penny.
Ben Carson. Well, my mom, Penny, first and foremost. But Ben Carson and Donald Trump, right? I mean, there is almost this outsider caucus forming where they've got each other's backs.
What's fascinating to me is to see how far Bush has dropped. I mean, he is now in just Iowa, New Hampshire, and South Carolina polling in the single digits. And I look to a lot of these states. You know what's frustrating is a lot of the people that you mentioned, the Huckabees, they do really well in a state like Iowa, and then they just peter out. And I have to be honest, I would much rather see somebody do well in Iowa, New Hampshire, and just a clean sweep. So there's less blood on the floor.
He's about to spend
in a general
8 figures,
election.
Though. I mean, I wouldn't write him off yet because he's got the biggest piggy bank. He's about to spend 8
Who are we
figures.
talking about?
Jeb Bush.
Yeah, he needs to either, I don't know, get a full frontal lobotomy or something else to help him out, because it's the personality, not the money.
Oh, I have an idea for Hillary Clinton, and I think this is the only thing that can help her, because she also has a lot of money, and she's going on a major ad blitz trying to convince people that she is an ethical and worthy opponent and potential president, which she's not. The only thing that she can do, because I've been thinking, like, what can Hillary Clinton do differently? And really the only thing I've thought of is she needs to put on a bikini and eat a Carl's Jr. Like, that's it. That's the only thing.
Do you think a Hillary bikini shot would really help her right now?
I really do. Couldn't be worse than it
Somewhere
is.
a campaign consultant is
Okay,
scribbling
that could be
notes.
worse than the server.
Yes.
I actually think it could get worse. A missing
That
server.
being said, Andrea,
and a bikini.
How much do you think the polls, what we're seeing in the polls now, are going to translate to those early races? I mean, obviously, those are not a direct indication of how things are going to turn out. Do you expect any major surprises?
I do. I think it's still way too fluid. I mean, you look at Scott Walker, who just a couple of weeks ago has spent almost every free moment he's had in Iowa. He's focused everything he has in Iowa. Most of his money is spent in Iowa on ground game. And Sandra, ground game is everything. Dollars, ground game, and winning. And we've seen him drop, I think, precipitously. Before he was, leading the pack.
Lost 10 points. Yeah, no, Scott Walker's having a tough time. And like we said last week, that if he doesn't win in Iowa, he loses. And, you know, he's not a debate kind of guy. And he doesn't seem to be a campaigning kind of guy either.
If you don't come in the top 3 in Iowa, historically, no one has ever gotten the nomination.
Well, the question, though, is if this is the same kind of environment. It's so much more of a nationalized primary, you know, just because the news covers it nationally. So there are local dynamics, but, man, this SEC primary really extends that national leg a lot.
It does. All right, well, maybe it's not about her campaign, but her, the deep concerns high-ranking Democrats have about Hillary, the candidate, despite her numerous attempts to make over her image. Plus, a stunning poll on Common Core, the dwindling support for the national educational standards. And wait until you hear what teachers think about it, what this all may mean for the future of Common Core.